Hi there, this is Aloysius from Huawei. In this session, I'm going to share with you a zero trust approach as the way in ensuring effective security in the digital workplace of tomorrow. Rapid changes in the digital world is bringing about a huge demand in super connectivity. Connectivity that is going to be realized through 5G and fiber to support a myriad of cloud applications as seen on this page. Indeed, Industry 4.0 is going to drive a transformation of cloud and data. As you can see that the data is no longer going to be the same kind of data that we're used to be seeing in the past, but smart or intelligent data that will offer you valuable decision-making information for you to do your job better, to alleviate your life, and to make this world a better place to live in. Or is that true? One has to be reminded that there are always two sides of the same coin, because with every new possibility, it entails new challenge as well. For example, all things connected will also means that the attack surface will increase, vulnerabilities will also increase as a result. Take for example, IoT. The proliferation of IoT over the last few years has been by leap and bounds. Studies has been showing that every person may carry up to 7 to 8 IoT devices, and every household may have up to 70 to 80 IoT-enabled devices at home, which also include smart cam. The ubiquitous smart cam is one of the most highly hacked IoT device that's available out there in the market. We saw that it was commandeered by Mirai virus to launch a denial of service attack at the DNS server 5 years back. And recently, in this year, during the pandemic lockdown period, we are seeing that we saw that trenches and trenches of photos and videos suspected to come from smart cams are available for sharing or even for sale on the internet. So, yes, all things are connected, but we have to deal with this increased attack surface, increased vulnerability that, even today, webcam is still being hacked despite the fact that it has been hacked for 5 years. New controls have been in place. Security best practices has been also issued, but yet webcam are still the subject of discussion in most IoT security or insecurities. And when we talk about a pandemic, we also saw that a lot of people are still working from home. And when you work from home, how do you access the data in your corporate network? The likelihood is that provisions have to be made for you to access all this information that's stored in your corporate network, or that you have to go back to the office to get certain information, or else there's no way that you can do your job properly. So we are seeing that with the new possibilities of having more open platform and more resource sharing, especially in a cloud kind of environment, traditional boundaries of defense are blurring. The traditional brick and mortar of a corporate office is no longer an effective gauge on how you design your perimeter defense for your corporate network. The corporate network is likely to be extended to the home of the employee, extended to the corporate network of your partners, your contractors, as well as your supplier, and or even to the homes of the employees of these partners, suppliers, and contractors. So how are you going to secure the information flow between these different parties? That's food for thought. And don't forget I mentioned earlier that the data is likely to be smart, it's likely to be intelligent. Right? AI-infused information in the data, if it's leaked, will also imply greater harm that could be done. Some of the information could be information overdose. So with new possibilities, there will always be new challenges that comes with it. So at Huawei, we attempt to solve this problem using a zero trust approach, where using the zero trust approach, we will build security through innovation. Innovation through experience, innovation through the process and technology that we could tap on to build solution and control for security. And before we talk about adopting a zero trust approach, one key assumption that we need to take is that any computing environment at the start cannot be trusted. They are unclean. In zero trust approach, you're assuming that your basic steps is unsecure. So when you move from your n equals 0 to establish your n equals 1, you have to build that basic first step to build that platform that you will be standing, okay, in a seas of uncertainty. So if you envision a zero trust approach, you can maybe just picture yourself on a boat in the sea of uncertainty. In the language of Malaysia, it means that you are on a sampan in the sea of uncertainty. And once you have that assumption, you start to build your sampan. You start to have a security first design that is prioritized by management, built into the strategy, and integrated into all business activities and process. You to evolve your sampan into maybe a cruise ship or a battleship. And how do you do that is that you need a senior management endorsement. You need to have a senior management sponsor that will be able to help you push for security to be embedded, to be baked into your security, to be baked into your strategy right from the beginning. All projects will start or will not start without considering security first. In Huawei, we are very lucky because Mr. Ren Zhengfei, our founder, believed that cybersecurity and privacy protection are our top priorities. In fact, he goes on record to say that cybersecurity and privacy protection should never be outweighed by the consideration of commercial interest. In fact, Mr. John Southwark, our global group security and privacy officer, which is my boss, okay, he said that we are the most open and transparent and scrutinized company in the world. Our processes, our approach to security through a zero trust approach set a high bar of standard that no one few can match, right? So this is something that with that strong endorsement by management that will develop this into a value system or even be your corporate culture are key for you to start building up your sampan, your little boat, into something that's bigger and more sturdy. Your cruise ship and your battleship depends on having security baked in right from day one. And that is the basis of zero trust. In Huawei, we always practice ABC in zero trust. We assume nothing, we believe no one, and we check everything. Perimeter defense is no longer sufficient. You need to be a dynamic defense in depth, starting with the first basic step, which is the security strategy. that's baked into your corporate core strategy or your core of your corporate, your DNA of corporate. And teaching perimeter defense for defense in depth is nothing new. In 2003, Jericho Forum, led by David Lacy, I believe that he was the chief security officer for Royal Mail at that time, together with other eminent CIO and CSO in UK, come together and that advocated for de-parameterization. They believe that perimeter defense is overrated, and an over-reliance on perimeter defense is actually the beginning of downfall for any company. Because the moment that hard outer core is compromised, your inners are soft. It's a straight route to the crown jewels of your company. And very often not, the traditional castle and moat, the Great Wall of China, shows that perimeter defense is indeed overrated. We need to build defense in depth. So with that strategy, Jericho Forums advocated that we should build defense in depth with a core backbone supporting all these strategy. And this core backbone is a role-based access management system that we call identity management today. Through a role-based access management system, you will be able to control access to any virtual asset at a very granular level, and you are able to build secure controls around that, using that as the backbone where you can build the flash around that. And you build that step by step, layer by layer, and that is what we know as defense in depth. And this is just an illustration how this can be done in data security to protect your crown jewel, which is the data, starting from encryption, where data cannot be taken, or once taken, it cannot be read, to database security, where the database cannot be read or cannot be accessed without the right access controls to decrypt the information stored in the database, to implementing access controls on application and host control. Like if you do not have access even to send a query to the database, then you are not allowed to do that. And all these are done over secure channels. So this is what you call defense in depth. And in the 70s, that is an onion model. So if you study security formally in the school, or you study things like CISSP, you will learn about all the models that were taught in the 60s and something like Bell Lab, Padula, onion models. So these are just to name a few. And these models advocate for layered defense and aptly called an onion defense at that point in time. But all these remain fluffy. Okay, fluffy in the air as long as it cannot be realized and deployed in real life. So a new security concept will always require practical execution, or else it will just remain as a good idea. And in Huawei, how we do it, okay, after having that critical security baked into our core values, baked into our corporate strategy, the next thing we do is to build that core, which is based on a role-based access management control, where we integrate security requirements into the development operation process based on that. Let's say, for example, if I'm not an R&D staff, I will not be able to access any kind of R&D information. Simple as that. And if you are not a sales staff, you couldn't access any sales information. And if you are not even the sales director for a particular company, for your client, then you are not the client director for that, then you have no access to that. So even I'm the CSO, I don't have access to all this information. And that is what we call also secure by design. And at every step, we have that independent security verification that my boss John talked about. Right? We are the most scrutinized company in the world. So we are the one company in the world that received the most scrutiny, and to address the scrutiny, we have a lot of third-party independent security verification. We built verification center in the United Kingdom. We built a transparency center in Brussels. And if there's any security requirements out there, any security standards out there that we are not accredited to or we're not certified to, rest assured that it is in the pipeline, because we will attach to the most stringent requirement, and that means that all security standards out there, we should and be certified to that third-party certification. No question about that. So once you have all this security first strategy, you start to build that end-to-end supply chain security, okay? And slowly you move it from department to department, function to function. From, for example, procurement, you look at procurement and supply management, to secure manufacturing and logistics, then to deployment and maintenance, and during the whole time, you make sure that hardware and software are traceable, right? So from the procurement side, from the supplier side, you buy the parts, right? Then you bring the parts to the manufacturing, to the plant, where your R&D, results of the R&D, okay, the process and technology will bind down there, and magic will flow. While magic flow and is created, the factory itself has to be implemented in the way that every part of the process is verifiable, traceable, as well as able to extend that not only from the factory but to the warehouse. And that's what we mean by secure manufacturing and logistics. And from a warehouse, okay, you build processes in the product that will prevent it from being tampered with through tamper evidence and tamper resistant controls that are implemented on the product themselves. So from the warehouse, you deliver it to your customer, and then deploy only equipment that are not non-tampered with the seal and the tamper evidence seal and intact, and evidence shows that there's no tainting or tampering of the products. And then even as we deploy, we still do a test to make sure that and verify that the products that we deliver on the ground are indeed safe and secure. And as we do maintenance, okay, the right to maintain it, the right to access it, had to be granted from time to time, and only valid for that particular time that maintenance is required. Right? It's not a blanket issuance of rights that we can come back 2-3 years later and still have the right. No, it is for that purpose, for that time period, and on a right to have basis. So this entire supply chain security is how we built, layer by layer security that allow us to ensure that our products and services that is delivered to the customer are safe and secure. And if I share with you a customer case on end-to-end layer security for 5G, and why 5G is because 5G is probably one of the most talked about technology today that is also at the same time designed ground up using a zero trust approach. Yes, 5G was designed using a zero trust approach, 5G security standards. So from Huawei perspective, we look at how we're going to deliver our 5G core network, our 5G RAN, and then all the nodes on the ground. Okay, so we always look at it right from the hardware security all the way to the software, right? Hardware, we look at it at the device layers, looking at things like whether the core network that we built, okay, and the appliances that we have, have controls that are recommended under the 3GPP security assurance requirement, and that they are enabled. Actually, in a lot of time, a lot of telco providers, even before 5G time, there are controls in place that will reduce the possibility of being hacked, like for example, fake base station, interception of subscriber ID so that you can masquerade the subscriber. There are controls in place that will reduce the risk. Okay? But even before 5G time, a lot of providers never activate these controls. And when it comes to 5G, some providers are not advised in the right way and did not activate these controls. At Huawei, we believe that these controls are essential requirement and they are enabled by default. Things like subscriber ID, we enable it to enhance privacy. Unified authentication was activated to prevent masquerading of base station and to prevent your data from being attacked in a man-in-the-middle attack. And we have better air interface to make sure that we take care of not only confidentiality but integrity. And we also implemented a stronger cryptography requirement. And when we look at the RAN, 5G RAN deployment, we built it. We built the cloud application that support the RAN application from scratch, ground up. So it is truly an E2E security, where we build security ground from device layer to the app layer. So I talked about this earlier, that our process is end-to-end. So if you look at this diagram over here, it actually represents the Huawei vision of forging native resilience of equipment and solution and building a comprehensive 5G security capabilities through deployment and operation security. So at the equipment solution layer, we already make sure that the security requirements and the R&D process are trustworthy. The entire process of development, we employ a DevSecOps approach to make sure that security is built into the development and operation process. How you manage the code base, how you transfer rights, how you do versioning control, and how do you do the testing of the security control, whether are they effective at every checkpoint. We employ a vulnerability management system. We employ professional service security testers to look at that, even at the equipment and solution security level. So we are guided by the principle of identification, prevention, detection, and response and recovery of any vulnerabilities through a managed process that we could always measure the outcome. And that is what we call how we bind all the technology and process together. And the same thing goes when we do deployment. When we look at user endpoint, traffic, and app and data, we look at how we design and do the zone segmentation for the RAN, for example. We do in-depth defense. We look at set up security operating centers to manage any threat information that comes through. We have solution integration and make sure that all the maintenance and preventive measures are in place, especially when we goes to building up a 5G security ops platform and solution. Okay, again, down here, security is role-based access managed. So we look at identity management process. We identify and manage every asset through a risk-directed approach. So the risk-directed approach will allow us to prioritize our focus on the right thing at the right time. So all this is part of the Huawei vision, to bind all the technology or process together through innovation that will pursue a truly zero trust approach to build security up from scratch. So this is what we have for 5G. And this is another customer case study on cloud security application architecture. Again, you can see that everything is well segmented, and access to each segment is purely by access control management. That is also have the element of time in there, whether are you able to access that during the period of time, or do you have the rights granted to you or within the granted rights. So let's say if the time for you to access all this information is expired, you have to do the application for rights again. You will not be able to extend the rights yourself. You will not be able to continue to do it. Will not give you a blanket so-called super user access just to do it. No. So in Huawei, we are very cautious that all security has to be built ground up. So what is granted to you in access management control is also ground up based on need to know and need to have basis. So in here, besides that, you see that every access to every different segment is not only controllable, but is the channel also secure to prevent information leakage at the same time. And this is basically also something that we implement in place, especially when we deliver our 5G RAN. Having said that, you have great process, you have great technology, but people is always the weakest link. So there's a need to run a security program that build awareness, not only awareness among the security professionals, the IT guys, but also the entire company, the entire corporate. We also need to build up capabilities of all these engineers that are on the job to make sure that they have the right capability to deliver the service, and their competency is assessed on a timely basis. This is something that we implement in Huawei, and despite the fact that I may be the CSO, but I have to take security courses and assessment on an annual basis as well. So this is not something like even if you reach the top of the op chart, you are you have immunity to be assessed. That's not true. I need to be assessed. Even my CEO need to be assessed on an annual basis for the skill sets that we are certified in. And in this case, the skill set that I'm supposed to be assessed on is of course on cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is all about achieving a balance between people, technology, and process. And people is always the key binding factor that binds technology and process together, and to make sure that these three work in tandem. So only through collaboration we can enhance security. So with process, with technology, we build security, but we can only enhance and optimize the performance of security through collaboration. And in Huawei, we proactively participate in a wide-ranging security activities. For example, we participate in standard setting. We also participate in leading work groups to develop certain initiative or certain best practices. In short, is that Huawei wants to be part of the ecosystem. We want to be part of the global ecosystem. We want to be part of the industry cooperation network that will be able to contribute back to the system, contribute back to the ecosystem, because we believe that true cybersecurity can only be achieved if Huawei contribute back to the ecosystem, is as part of the ecosystem, and lead and improve the ecosystem as a result through continuous interaction with the people and improving the status of security step by step. And this can only be done when we have this true, open, and transparent manner how we do collaboration in the industry, in the global cyber ecosystem that is based on technical competency, based on that trust that's built up over a period of years on contributions from a technology and technical perspective. That doesn't bring any things like nation states into play. So, for example, right, in 5G network security, Huawei contribution to 3GPP SA3, which is security WG, is significant. We are the top contributor to 5G network security with over 1,600 security proposals, where 791 of them have been accepted. Right, and among all these security proposals, we have out of this proposal, 1,393 of them are on 5G security alone, where 624 of them have been accepted and is part of the current 5G security standard that 3GPP and GSAA comes together and develop a third-party certification scheme called NEXAS that certify 5G network equipment provider, and Huawei is one of the first network equipment provider for 5G to be certified under the NEXAS scheme. Lastly, I'd like to talk about how we could improve collaboration to enhance security through active participation for all stakeholders. In this illustration, we are talking about a smart city kind of implementation where they have all the stakeholders at the top. And when we talk about zero-day approach, we are building from bottom up. So we have to make sure that at the beginning, the ICT infrastructure that's supporting the entire smart city concept is secure and trusted. And we build up from there and then develop a threat intelligence system from having a coordinated feeder from all the stakeholders in a information sharing and analysis platform that we could augment the platform with technology through cloud and through AI, where AI-based self-learning threat detection will be able to detect with accuracy up to 99% from passive response to proactive, that will turn passive response to proactive defense, and reduces the threat response time as a result, and therefore saving up to 80% of the security OEM costs. And according to Ponemon Institute, slow response is actually the Achilles heel for any security implementation for companies, where it actually accounts for 40% higher costs. So through intelligence by collaboration, we can reduce these costs and up to 80%. And that can only be done through collaboration. And collaboration is nothing new. Information sharing is nothing new. The Black Hats have been doing that for years. You have the Chaos Club back in the 1980s that share information. And subsequently in the 90s, you see the Black Hat and DEFCON community being formed to share information. And in the early 2000s, in 2003, HITB was formed, and HITB conference was first held, where information is shared, and that good tradition is continued up to today. If you ask D, I was one of the first that respond to his call for this building of ecosystem, and I led the security committee from Singapore to participate in this building up of this ecosystem in Malaysia back in 2003. So everything we just roll our sleeve and do it ourselves, and those were the days. And therefore, this is something that I think it's time that we need to issue call arms to build a globally trusted cyber ecosystem in UAE using the HITB Cyber Week UAE as a platform to issue this call. I think it is the right platform to issue this call, and it is the apt time to issue this call, as there is an urgent need to build a globally trusted cyber ecosystem in the UAE, in the Middle East, for the Middle East. With that, I thank you for your attention. Any interested party to participate in building up the cyber ecosystem here in UAE, please contact me directly at this email down here, and I shall see you at HITB Discord channels for any questions and answers. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.